In-depth, investigative. This is KXAN News Today.
We now know how tough last week's cold snap was for people on the streets. Thanks for joining us. I'm Tom Miller. Austin Travis County EMS saying it responded to more than 24 calls for people experiencing issues with the elements. And as KXAN's Grace Reeder explains, the city is looking at how it can get more people into its overnight cold weather shelters.
Medics responded to 28 cold-related illness calls during last week's cold snap. That's according to Austin Travis County EMS. Of those, crews took 11 people to the hospital.
We never want to see those numbers, right? We want to see 0 hypothermia calls and 0 fatalities as a result for it.
The good news is EMS says nobody they checked out or transported to hospitals last week died. Meanwhile, Austin's Homeless Strategy Office says, with the exception of Monday, when the threshold for the shelters to open was not met, they provided nearly 2,000 shelter beds from Sunday evening to Saturday morning.
We had pretty high numbers all week, around 400 plus most of the nights.
With temperatures finally starting to feel like spring Monday, what comes next? While we're not out of the woods just yet, the City of Austin's Homeless Strategy Office says they are already thinking about changes that they could make to improve operations at their overnight cold weather shelters.
And we've talked about, like in April and May, really coming together with the city departments and talking about what worked, what didn't work, what can we change. And then we also really want to bring in the community and hear from them about what they're seeing, what worked and what didn't work, and what changes we can make.
The City of Austin already made significant changes going into the winter, including simplifying the threshold for those shelters to be activated and notifying people sooner. Grace Reeder, KXAN News.
One concern that we've heard from people in Austin is, why does everyone have to meet at the One Texas Center and then be shuttled to the shelter? Taking a closer look at this, the city says it does not want to use the same recreation centers or city buildings to shelter people overnight, and therefore it doesn't want people showing up at the wrong place. City has talked about creating another meeting point further north. However, organizers say they've struggled to find a building that could temporarily hold and transfer hundreds of people on short notice.
First warning weather with meteorologist Kristen Curry.
Good Tuesday morning. Let's start with a live look outside, taking you up to North Austin. This is our Indeed domain camera. You can look at Q2 pretty nicely. Not to say there's not any fog out there. Most of it is east of I-35 right now. I think that's going to make a run at parts of the I-35 corridor later this morning. But at the moment, it's Fayette County dealing with that dense fog. Visibility to about a half a mile or less. That's also where we have a dense fog advisory, again, out in our eastern counties until 10 a.m. this morning. So I would definitely plan on fog in our eastern counties. I-35, let's check in throughout the morning with me, because I think that this fog, kind of like yesterday, is going to start to creep. But the temperatures area-wide much milder, as we are seeing widespread 40s and 50s. Nobody even close to the 30s. Fredericksburg, you're currently sitting at 53. Yesterday morning, you were down to 32. So I'm sure you noticed how nice the weather was yesterday. We are going to see a repeat day of that today. Clouds will clear, afternoon sunshine takes over, high of 76. Your winds coming out of the south at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. So coming up, we're comfortably warm. Hard to complain about this weather, especially for the end of February. But there is going to be a midweek cold front that actually starts to make its way towards us late tomorrow into Thursday morning. We'll talk about that weather maker, plus a weekend rain chance to discuss those details in your first warning forecast.
Thank you, Kristen. More legislation related to banning diversity, equity, and inclusion in Texas is being filed. That includes a bill from the senator who was behind that DEI ban at public universities. KXAN's Jayla Washington takes an in-depth look at the likelihood of this becoming law.
Three different bills. And similar language like diversity, equity, race, and gender. SB 17 bans diversity, equity, and inclusion at public colleges and universities here in Texas. It passed last legislative session and is now a law. And this session, SB 12, just filed this morning, looks to expand that ban to include K through 12 students. Both of these bills were filed by Senator Brandon Creighton. And HB 2548, filed earlier this month, is looking to stop those public colleges and universities from requiring core classes with topics like systemic racism, social justice, gender equality, and more. How common is it to see legislation or similar legislation filed in consecutive sessions by either the same senator or different senators?
It's very common. Oftentimes, multiple bites at the apple to get a policy solution across the finish line.
Critics of DEI and similar legislation worry about the progression and the impact.
So this is not some attack out of nowhere.
Last week, the Austin Justice Coalition spoke out against HB 2548.
We feel that this basically, if you are anything outside of the status quo, we don't want our institutions of higher education to let you teach about it.
Governor Greg Abbott and other Republicans say DEI gives preferential treatment and have vowed to making things more fair by doing away with it.
Schools must not push woke agendas on our kids.
If something is prioritized by the lieutenant governor, the speaker of the House, or the governor, it kind of looks like a front runner.
Jayla Washington, KXAN News.
Now, thousands of bills are filed each session, but this doesn't mean they pass. In the last regular legislative session, only about 15% made it to the governor's desk. The deadline to file this session is March 14th. Good morning. This is a live look from our Indeed domain tower camera, looking over North Austin and out at Q2 Stadium. Happy to have you with us here on this Tuesday. Hope you're enjoying a cup of coffee or some tea as you're getting your day going early on. You know, we are committed to accuracy here at KXAN, and in a report yesterday on the person who may have brought measles to Hays County, we said they were from Gainesville. They are actually from Gaines County, that is southwest of Lubbock. And speaking of Gaines County, it remains the epicenter of that outbreak in Texas. So far, there are at least 90 confirmed cases across the state. The MMR vaccine can help protect you from this virus, and the state's chief epidemiologist says 2 doses of the vaccine is 97% effective at protecting a person from measles.
Measles virus can stay in the air in the room for up to 2 hours. And so even just being in the same room with someone who's sick, if you're not protected, could put you at risk.
That infected person traveling from Gaines County spent time in San Marcos, San Antonio, and New Braunfels on Valentine's Day weekend, February 14th through 16th. Good morning. Another live look out from our Indeed domain tower camera. Happy to have you with us here on KXAN News Today. If you're thinking about breakfast, you'll notice price of eggs keeps going up. The Department of Agriculture says the average price now more than $8 for a dozen eggs. And Denny's is the latest restaurant chain announcing an egg-based surcharge. Coming up on Today, struggles for restaurants and cooks at home. I like to make eggs for breakfast, and I'll bring them to work. And now I'm like, this is a luxury.
Yeah.
I might be sticking to the yogurt parfaits for a while.
Which is a good alternative.
Another healthy alternative.
It does, stink with the timing lining up with Easter too, because
Yes.
obviously as a deviled egg carnivore, I am really worried about this getting into the Easter celebrations, Even dyeing eggs, that's such a vital part of it.
Right. You're like, do I want to spend $8 to dye eggs?
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do.
Let me show you what's going on with your forecast here. Hopefully you enjoyed that kind of springtime weather we had yesterday. We've got another day of it today. It's been so nice. I walking out yesterday afternoon thinking, this is why we put up with the summers that we do, because this kind of winter weather, this is hard to come by. We've got dry skies across the entire state. This morning, we are waking up very mild, lower 50s here in Austin. We pretty much have everybody in those upper 40s to low 50s with variable winds. I mentioned earlier that we're watching that fog out across our eastern counties. Probably going to get a little worse before it gets better as we get closer to sunrise. Dense fog advisory in place for Milam County, Lee, Bastrop, Caldwell, and Fayette County until 10 a.m. We'll see if that fog creeps far enough west to have some of our other counties get underneath that advisory. But as of now, that's where we do have that weather alert. Later today, that fog will not be an issue. issue. Mainly sunny skies, highs in the mid-70s, south winds at 5 to 10 miles per hour. I'll give you a second to find your neighborhood number. Kind of like yesterday, a little bit of some drier air out west, meaning warmer temperatures in the hill country. Likely to see those low to mid 80s there, but most of us above average for this time of year by more than 5 degrees. What about our skies? Well, fog this morning clearing to afternoon sunshine. I do anticipate that fog to return tonight. It's going to be with us for most of tomorrow morning. Tomorrow we do have more clouds than sun at times. It's not going to be nearly as much of the blue sky as what I anticipate later today. There's going to be a cold front late tomorrow night into mainly Thursday morning. This front has the low potential of firing off a couple isolated showers along it. It's a 10% chance or less Thursday morning. It's in and it's out. We're already starting to see clearing skies by Thursday evening, and we will be a little cooler behind it, but this is not going to crater our temperatures. We still see upper 60s to low 70s behind it. For perspective, average is 68. So we're still beautifully comfortable heading into the later part of the week. What comes after that cold front? Well, a disturbance crossing to our north, I think, is going to have a better chance of firing off some showers on us Sunday. Maybe even a few isolated thunderstorms in the mix. We are getting into that time of year where it's hard to just get plain old rain now. With severe weather season right around the corner, we'll watch to see if any of these thunderstorms do have potential. We're not risked for anything just yet, but I will watch that for you Sunday afternoon. It's again in and out. Behind it, we're still looking at warm temperatures. So 7-day forecast, mid 70s today and tomorrow. Cold front comes through early Thursday. That's the 10% chance of rain, gusty winds per normal with the front. Those winds will be coming out of the north at us on Thursday. Friday, mainly sunny with highs in the 70s. We take those 70s through the weekend. 30% chance of showers and a few isolated storms for now on Sunday. 70s continue getting into the first week of March. Interesting to see that warmer than normal temperatures are still outlooked for us as we get into that second week of March as well. So are we done with freezes? It is a very real possibility, but we know sometimes those cold fronts in March can give us some problems. So I'm not 100% confident. I would say I'm 85% confident. Tom?
It's been known to happen. You're right, Kristen. Thank you. Major changes are coming to the way that millions of Texans play the lottery in our state. Yesterday, the Texas Lottery Commission said it would ban lottery courier services. These allow you to order tickets online or through an app. Now, this decision comes after pressure from state lawmakers. They have issues with potential money laundering and underage players buying tickets. Now, Governor Greg Abbott says Texas Rangers will investigate some of these recent jackpot wins. And KXAN's Sarah Alshay explains that lawmakers want to know why this took so long.
I would love to have an answer to my question.
Hours of heated discussion about recent developments with the Texas Lottery.
I hear your words, but nothing explains what changed.
At the State Affairs Committee hearing on Monday, repeated questions about why the Texas Lottery Commission did not ban courier services sooner. The services allowed people to order tickets online or through an app.
You have consistently said you don't have the authority to do anything about the couriers. You did it under oath last Wednesday at the Finance Committee hearing. What changed?
The commission says part of that decision came because of an $83 million Lotto Texas jackpot win through the app Jackpocket. It owns and operates this Austin-based retail store, Winner's Corner. Despite being located in an area with little foot traffic, they generated the most lottery ticket sales in 2023. IGT, the lottery operator in Texas, told senators the store had 47 machines, the most delivered to any one location. A typical convenience store only has one.
It wasn't 47 at once. They grew their business and the growing sales required the terminals. The lottery licenses these retailers and indicates to us that it is appropriate and in fact directs us to install terminals, provide the necessary supplies and equipment for these retailers to sell.
The Texas Rangers opened an investigation. Governor Greg Abbott announced the agency will also look into a $95 million jackpot win from April 2023, where a single entity bought almost every single combination of tickets.
This is probably the greatest fraud perpetrated on the state of Texas by any group ever.
The commission dropping a bombshell in the hearing that there was a second attempt to do this.
That group or someone substantially affiliated with that group was planning and preparing to buy a substantial number of tickets in December 2024. As soon as I found out about that, I instructed IGT to initiate an emergency code release, and I also went and briefed many of the members of Sunset and of State Affairs. I was in the Capitol for a significant amount of time on that day in December.
Now, as there's momentum to change and prevent these situations again, lawmakers ask how the commission plans to restore public confidence in the Texas lottery.
I think it's going to be a long road. We have to make sure that we show the public that we're taking these actions to restore that public trust.
Sarah Alsha, KXAN News.
Republican State Senator Bob Hall is a member of the State Affairs Committee, and he introduced a bill to criminalize playing the lottery online. As an initial step with the Lottery Commission's new policies, stores will not be allowed to have more than 5 machines. Sarah mentioned that one had 47. The commission says every terminal is registered on a system it can access, and that's part of how it exercises the oversight. Going in depth on this started with a Sunset Advisory Commission report over the summer outlining some of those issues with the Texas Lottery Commission. Among the findings, KXAN highlighted at the time, the state's Lottery Commission is insufficiently involved in its role, but it also found specific issues with overseeing charitable bingo operations, calling for significant improvements with auditing and inspecting licenses. Likely the biggest point from the Sunset Commission, despite all the issues, the state does need a lottery commission. Cited record sales as a need for a regulatory arm and the problems that could happen trying to shift that burden onto other state agencies.
This is KXAN Sports, brought to you by Thomas J. Henry.
Well, good morning and happy Tuesday. I'm Levon Whitaker. Texas women's basketball has been unstoppable, winning 10 straight games, 4 of them against ranked opponents. Yesterday, they faced Georgia, the Bulldogs, in Athens, Georgia. First quarter, Rory Harmon puts up the three-pointer, making it a 9-point Texas lead, became the first player in program history with 1,200 points and 600 assists. Second quarter, Flournoy cut the lead to just 1 point for the Longhorns, and Texas struggling in the first half. But whatever Vic Schaefer said in the timeout, it really worked because Taylor Jones, the centerpiece, scored 6 straight points to start the third quarter. Madison Booker not having her best shooting night, but she found her way to get out on the action as well. At one point, the Longhorns went on a 13-0 run and came out with a 57-26 win to extend their streak to 11 games. Here's head coach Vic Schaefer after the game.
We always talk about defense traveling, and I thought our defense was really special tonight. I thought we had our 3 guards, Booker and Rory and Shea, and then anybody we brought in really did a nice job. Jakalinga played really well defensively too, so I'm proud of our defense. It was elite. You can't lose a gasket. You got to stay in the moment. You got to get those kids home. That's my job, and I thought they really responded in the second half.
And we've got some time until football season is here, but the Longhorns have made some headlines recently after canceling the spring game, losing running backs coach Tashard Choice to the NFL, and now you can add defensive backs coach Terry Joseph to the list. According to multiple reports, Joseph will join the New Orleans Saints as a defensive pass game coordinator. Joseph was the cornerbacks coach for the Longhorns since 2021 after coaching at programs such as Notre Dame, Texas A&M, and LSU. According to reports, the vacancy is already being filled by Arizona Wildcats defensive back coach Dwayne Aquina. And if that name sounds familiar, folks, it's because Aquina was with the Longhorns from 2001 until 2013. And earlier I talked about the 11-game win streak for women's basketball, but baseball has one of their own. 5 straight wins for Jim Schlossnagle and his team since losing the first game of the season to Louisville and Arlington. The Longhorns completed a 3-game series sweep against Dartmouth over the weekend. In their home opener, it looked rough in the first 2 games, only winning by 1 run in each of those, but they went on to win Game 3 4-1 and improved to 5-1 this season. Here's head coach Jim Schlossnagle after the win.
First day that since the alumni game that it felt like a real game at Dish Fault, and I'm sure it will be even better than that. But good to see the sun come out. Good weekend. Certainly got a lot of things to work on and keep getting better as a team.
I mean, it was a great experience. Obviously, being here at Dish Fault Stadium is is definitely like a dream of mine. I grew up a Texas fan from Dallas, and I came to games when I was little. Always wanted to be a Longhorn. Now that's finally here, it's a real moment for me.
Well, Texas baseball is back in action tonight at 6:30 at Dish Falk Field. Back to you.
Coming up, some new ways to get to Austin's parks faster. If you're listening on the KXAN Today podcast, thanks for joining us. Hope you'll join us on air for that story. And all our stories are on our website, KXAN.com.